You don't have to wear fancy pants just to listen to Mozart. The United Performing Arts Fund says, come as you are. What? You need a tux to see a play about singing zombies? A monocle to watch some talking animals? Like the man said, this is our town. And no matter what you're into, there's a performance this season that has it. So just buy a ticket, because something real is happening. Right here, right now, in Milwaukee. Find your performance at mkearts.com.
Blog Talk Radio.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I just want to apologize. Obviously, I spoke to Bridget yesterday. I'm pretty sure half the world already knows that clearly I had to reschedule my show for yesterday. Very thankfully, I'm back on air today for today's program, and let me just go ahead and mull over the rest of my calendar this week, just so that everybody has an idea of the rest of the shows today. Obviously, in a moment, we're going to be speaking with Mike DeMora, who is with NCEP, in other words, National College of Exercise Professionals, and we'll have him coming on in just a second. I just want to give the rundown for this week's shows. Tomorrow, we're going to be 4 o'clock Central Standard Time on the show, and I'm going to be interviewing Dr. Ariel Leviton, and she recently penciled a book called The Vitamin Solution, 2 Doctors Clear the Confusion About Vitamins and Your Health. Particularly interested to do this segment because there's a lot of patients and people out there who've been confused about the idea of vitamin supplements. Are they dangerous? Are they toxic? Can we take them for this? Can we take them for that? There's a lot of confusion that goes on about the vitamin industry. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow at 4 o'clock Central Standard Time. Thursday, we're going to be 2 o'clock Central Standard Time. Very excited. This is a new product. Not everybody's going to like it, but we all know I'm a little liberal in my thinking. There's a product out there called Blunto cards. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of the Uno card game, but basically it's very simplistic and very similar to that, only it's 420 friendly. So basically the founder, Mr. Fox, had said to me, well, if everybody can go out and have a drinking game, why can't we have a 420 friendly game? So it is basically Blunto, literally almost like Uno, only using marijuana versus using alcohol or other things. So I'm intrigued and interested to see what he has to say about the product. It's been on the market for about a year or so now. And then we round things out Friday at 3 o'clock Central Standard Time with Tawana Smith. She is actually a former professional basketball player that has decided almost, I would say she's very similar to one of my guests, Marcus Oden, if you remember having him, or when we had him originally, I should say, on the show. She's a professional athlete that takes the time to network individuals from all over the place to try to get a retirement plan, if you will, as it relates to retirement and brand packaging, etc. What happens to folks after they quit playing professional sports? And oftentimes there's a financial burden along with physical burdens, etc. So she's helped trying to alleviate that. So Tawana will be on the show on Friday. Thanks so much to everybody. Real quickly before I forget and go on air, I have read all of your notes. I appreciate all of your care and concern, your prayers and good thoughts. Obviously, if you read the update today, you know that things are not terrific physically at the moment, but I hope to have more answers, and I will provide an update tomorrow on my medical condition, probably tomorrow afternoon. So thanks for all the love and the affection and adoration. I appreciate it. Like I said, I need a little time to sort everything out, but I appreciate all your love and concern. So without further ado, let's get Michael on the line and start talking to him. Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm well. How about yourself?
Well, you know, you're my first show this week, actually. I was supposed to be on the air yesterday. So I'm a little nervous because when I have big people on the show, first of all, you look like a big human being, period. Second of all, you have a very impressive background. Seriously, whenever I have big people on the show, I'm like, and when I say big, I mean that in all ways, of course. I'm a little nervous right now because I'm a little 5'5" person with a head cold sitting in a kitchen chair right now. A little nervous. Just a little nervous. Not a lot, just a little.
Yeah, well, no reason. We're all good.
Are you sure?
Good.
You bite? Okay,
yeah.
So that's good. And I probably should tell you that you're going to hate me because I'm like, first of all, I'm going to have a lot of questions for you because I don't work out. And I know that you probably hate to hear that, but I don't have any time and I'm kind of lazy and I probably have to get out of that habit, which you'll probably talk me out of.
I don't either.
But,
I don't either.
Really?
I don't work out.
Really?
Yeah, of course not. No, that's the problem. People think they have to work out all
totally
the time.
Lying.
And that's really, no, I'm being really serious. It's not about working out. I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we have, especially going forward, with the idea that whole idea of working out and going to the gym and doing all these odd movements and stuff it doesn't make a lot of sense. And that's not how we're programmed. So,
right.
Yeah, I'm not a big working out fan, so to speak. So.
Thank God. There's finally someone in the universe that goes with my way of thinking. And I'm not opposed to working out, mind you. And a lot of the things we're going to talk about today is why I'm excited to have you on the show, because there are a lot of programs that you've designed and ways to put people together in a very healthy and holistic fashion. That's a very big deal for me. I think that's hugely important. So if you don't mind, we're going to bounce around a bit. We're going to talk about you as a person. We're going to talk about how you actually got into the business itself, how you formulated NCEP, and, of course, we're going to talk about the workshop along with some of the other entities you offer, if that's okay with you.
Everything is just fine. Sounds wonderful.
Oh, you're so passive. I love this. This is going to be great.
I am.
Okay, so first of all, well, you know, if you ever look at yourself, go on social media and take a look at yourself. You look very serious. In fact, the first time I looked at you, I thought, oh, my God, I'm afraid of him. He's so scary looking, but I'm sure you're loving.
That's funny.
Sure
I'm going to have to talk to my folks about the picture that they put out there. So, yeah, it's definitely not
Sorry. I'm just,
yeah.
I'm a journalist, and that's my first impression. I'm looking at you, and I'm thinking, oh, my goodness. So let's talk about... Well, that's good, and we'll find out about that, of course. Obviously, to those that are listening and that don't know anything about NCEP, you founded this almost 22 years ago, which means before 22 years ago, you did have a life and you were working. I like the story, actually. If you wouldn't mind, let's kind of start there, and if you would, share with your audience the story of how you ended up going where you were originally working. It's a neat story, into developing NCEP, because I think that's interesting.
Sure. Well, first off, you know, I'm a Midwestern guy. I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. Great place to be from. And so moved out here thinking I was going to be an actor and doing the whole, you know, I was a professional kickboxer and thought this was going to be my whole life. I had a serious injury, and after my first about 6 pro fights, had to kind of hang up the gloves for a while and figure out what was going on with me. So I had background in fighting, I had background in playing football, I had background in sports and activities and some schooling behind it. So I decided to go to the Sports Club Los Angeles, like the largest club out in LA at the time. And I got a job there. And cut to the chase, people were coming in. I was hired as a manager there. And people were coming in and they wanted to be trainers, but they weren't quote-unquote certified, or they didn't have any schooling behind them. So we would send them out to these other certifications and say, go learn this stuff. And it would take them a couple of months, and then they'd come back, and then they would have them work with me to get them on the floor and ready to go. And what I was finding is I was spending all this time unlearning what it is that they just had gone to learn. And so I'd say, okay, everything you just learned, throw it in a corner. Don't use it. It's not really effective, and it's not what our goal is here at Sports Club. So I had to retrain them. So I went to the owners of the club and said, this is kind of ridiculous. We get these people that are great, excited, happy. They come in, they want to work for us, and then we send them out, and they do this whole journey and get certified. They come back, and then basically we spend the next 6 weeks trying to tell them everything they just learned really isn't our style. Why don't we create our own certification? So they were very, very accepted for that. So we started the Sports Club Personal Training Certification School, and I was, of course, the director. And as we go forward, basically the club kind of sold off a couple of their clubs, and I was with one of the clubs that they had sold off, and so I wasn't working with them anymore, and so I called all of the people that they had processed the training with, and I said, hey, you know, I'm working for this company, blah, 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 blah. And they said, well, you're all set. You can just change the name and take it over, and that's kind of how NCEP started about 22 years ago. So that was long and short of it, yeah, just ended up with the need for changing the way people train and the way they look at being trained, so to speak.
Well, that got me to thinking, actually, when I started to research you, because I, of course, you know, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm fitness stupid, and obviously, of course, in a lot of ways, holistically stupid, meaning I'm getting more educated into certain things that are very good for us, especially, you know, with having health conditions, things like that, and I'm getting a little bit older. So one of the first things I thought we should talk about, because I see this a lot, is there is a stigma, I think, that surrounds health and holistic things and fitness. I know those are three separate entities. But I noticed this, like,
Sure.
for instance, one of the reasons I don't like to go to a gym or I don't like to embark on some of these things is we're all very resistant to change. I think especially as we age, it gets even harder. We get stuck in the same old habits, routines, etc. So when you're working with clients, let's say, for instance, first off, let's start there. How do you take them from a point of familiarity and put them into something fun and friendly that's new and interesting that they may think, oh, my God, I'm going to dread this? How do you make them get excited about something like that when you're first introducing it?
Well, I keep using the old saying, if you, the definition of insanity is do the same thing over and over again, but of course expect a different result. So my number one thing I clear up is, why are you here? Why are you sitting with me? And they say, I want things to change. Okay, great. I need you to write that down. I need you to highlight that. I need you to put stars around it. So if we accept the definition that being insane is to expect different results but doing the same thing over and over again, will you now accept us changing some of the things that you do in your life? And that kind of brings them on board, so they see it clearly. Then I ask them for basically what they're willing to do. For example, are they willing to give me 30 minutes each day? Are they willing to do an hour every other day? What are you doing? And then I look at their constraints or their parameters, and then we work out a program that works for them. But it's all about real life. One of the biggest challenges I have with fitness is that fitness isn't about life. In fact, it's very diametrically opposed. For example, without getting too technical, people do this one exercise called a seated pull down, where the load is on top of you, and you pull this load as hard as you can towards your body. Now, if you look at real life, when do you ever pull something that's heavy from above you to try to get it down towards your body? You don't. Like if you had to grab a bowling ball and you accelerated the bowling ball towards your head, you'd probably knock yourself out. So when a person works out at a gym, they only get better at being in the gym. But if you work out for life, then you actually get better at being in life. Now, it doesn't mean you can't work out at a gym. In fact, I think a great surrounding is an actual gym. It's perfect because everyone else is working out, everyone else is doing their thing. And so it's a wonderful, you get that vibe and that feeling that everyone else is there for a common purpose. But it's just what they do in the gym when they get there, which makes it different. So we believe in 7 movements. There's only 7 movements that an entire human being can do. And that's a push, a pull, a bend, a twist, a squat, a lunge, and what we call gait. And gait just means ambulation. In other words, getting from point A to point B. And to get from point A to point B, you either walk, jog, or run. So that's all we work on. And we work on things that make sense in real life. So everything that we do gets you better at real life. So many people go in, they start with, I can do a leg press. I can only do a leg press of 50 pounds. Now I can do a leg press of 100. I'm so much stronger. Well, you're not. It's not a thing that you're ever going to do in real life. Does that make any sense?
Actually, it makes it's scary sense is what it makes, actually. I just had a guest on last week. It's so simple. Who does the same thing. It's simple, but yet it's not so simplistic when you think about it, because I know it's your business, but me on the other side, I'm listening to this right now, and I'm thinking, I think my audience might be feeling this way too, like, how is he making this so simplistic? Do you know what I mean? Because we all get the basic premise of what you're saying, and we'll break down, obviously, how you do all these things. But I get exactly what you're talking about. Now, what if somebody comes in, and this is a curious situation because I did this myself, actually. I went to go see somebody, and I asked them for some change. Obviously, I'm not necessarily too thrilled with my body. So I said, I'm not big on working out. I've just had a big change in my diet, et cetera. But I'm like most people in that. We all want change to happen in a week. We don't want change to happen 6 months from now, and I don't have any patience because, I'm ridiculous at 48. I have no patience. So what happens when you come in? Are you careful in terms of trying to determine deadlines, or do you even have a specific deadline? Like when somebody comes to you and they're a client and they say to you, Okay, well, let's sit down. Let's determine your goals. Is there such a thing as a timeline with this type of work that you're doing, or is it just you recommend XYZ amount of time for said person? You follow me?
I do. I completely. No, the way that it works is we have to know what they expect, what their expectations are. And based on their expectations, the only goal is that each and every day you get better. So let's say for a squat, for example, I'll have them go on and try to bring your butt as close to the ground as you can without hurting yourself. So try to do a squat. And you watch them do a squat, and then you take a picture of it. And you say, okay, what do you think of this squat? Right. So, we have cell phones now. We have iPad. We have anything else. So you take a picture, and you say, well, what do you think of that? And then you show maybe someone who does it perfectly. And you say,
okay,
if this would be a really, really good moving squat, what do you think of yours? And they'll say completely, oh my gosh, I didn't know I looked like that. Or wow, why do I look like, or wow, is that why I can't bend over? Is that why I can't do this? Is that what? And so we say, okay, so our goal is each and every day you come in, you get closer and closer to what this looks like. And then they'll say, well, why? Why would that be better? And I say, well, okay, every time you go to bend over, every time you have to use the restroom, every time you whatever, is it a challenge? Is it a struggle? Is it something that's easy? And they go, whoa, I would love to get better at that. Or, especially when you talk about kids, you want to squat down and be able to pick up your child and play with them and do whatever, or your dog or your pet, or whatever it is that you want to do. How do you feel when you do that? Oh my gosh, I can't even bend down. I can't bend over to get that. Every time I go down, I have to grab the bed or grab something to go. Okay, so would you like to get better in that movement? Well, yes, I would. How much better would you like? Well, I'd like to be able to do this, this, and this. Fantastic. Every day we're going to get you closer to do this, this, and this. So when are you done? You're done when you're able to do this, this, and this. And you shake hands and say, have a great day. You're done. It's not about – the other thing that I see in the training industry that's really challenging is you get these people that they make them dependent upon them. So it's like the same client that I had today I'm going to have 5 years from now. Well, my goal is the client that I get today, my goal is when can I get you to the point where you don't need me? That's my overall goal. That's my beauty. And people say, well, you must be a great salesperson. I'm like, no, I don't sell at all. The person that I train sells. You give me one person, that person is going to be so ecstatic about what I do. They're going to tell all their friends and family. And I'm booked solid. I mean, I can't take another client even if I wanted one. I have to push people away. But I don't sell anybody. I couldn't sell anything to anybody. It's sales through service. It's sales through what you do.
Right.
So that's kind of our whole philosophy. That's one of the best parts.
Well, and what's nice about it is, too, like, for instance, one of the things that was going through my head, and I know this might sound like ignorant questions to you, but realistically, I have a large team. Well, I try to be smart. I am the journalist. I'm supposed to be smart, right? A lot of my listeners are females and moms, and obviously they've gone through certain things. And then we've got a whole nother slew of people that are creatives that listen. So these two questions are very applicable in terms of your services because I can see this happening. I'm a mother of 4 children, and I'm not going to lie to you. I'm 48 years old and went to the doctor yesterday, and that scale's not looking too pretty. And I'm like, oh, joy, welcome to Fat World. But all aside, here I am, and let's say I come to you for help or assistance in terms of feeling better, not only physically, but in terms of mentally, et cetera, and trying to, I think a lot can be said about if you look good and feeling better physically, that helps your mental mantra. I've always said that.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about 2 particular clients that may visit you or have actually, because I see that you cover this. First of all, women that have either just had a baby or going through the postpartum stuff and trying to get their body back in order, so there's a pregnancy side of things. Then on the other side of the fence, I know it might sound crazy, but I'm here to tell you, I'm doing a film on this actually, mental health patients. You've got people that are automatically programmed and wired to not like themselves a whole lot. So when you're dealing with circumstances that you can't control, as much as I adore Michael's services, I'm thinking to myself, okay, how's he going to tackle this? Let's talk about that. How do you set out a game plan for somebody to be able to gain their goals with I don't want to say challenges, but I want to say there's circumstances that that are not controllable by either party. How do we make this work? How can they utilize your services?
You know, that's a wonderful, wonderful question, and it kind of goes into why we actually, where we actually started a whole nother class. And it's actually a class, and it's called the Lifestyle Professional. And by getting that, you deal with more of the attitude or the mental issues or the self-deprecating issues and the things that you need to really work on, because that's really important. In fact, even in our standard course, the one that we're offering there in Chicago or you know, nationwide, we are the only certification that actually does a whole mental component. So we actually work on the attitude training, which is, to us, the absolute most important part. So the idea of doing repetitive statements, I love myself, I love who I am, I'm getting better every day, and doing positive mental imaging is really, really important with us. And so we go over those different types of mantras or the different types of sayings, because if we know how we program our subconscious, if you can't lie to yourself, so if you keep saying it over and over again, you program our subconscious to then realize that you can't lie or live a lie. So you actually become the person that it is that you say that you already are. I know that sounds a little tricky, but that's how we really work with people, is we keep telling them, and we're the ones who build them up. To us, the hour that you spend with us, or half an hour or whatever time, the entire time we're building them up, not just physically, but mentally as well. So we take little challenges, and make sure they understand that those are huge gains. If, like I said, if they can do a squat and they only bend 13 degrees or what have you with their knees. Well, if tomorrow they're building 14, you're like, oh my gosh, you did so well. That's so fantastic. At this rate, we're going to be doing a full squat and we're going to be blah, blah, blah. And everything's a we, and everything, they're doing so well, and it's their positive everything. So it's finding everything little and making sure they understand that it is a big step in the right direction. So I think the attitude is by far the absolute positive most important part of the program. And so people, they'll end up coming in because they want to lose 10 pounds, but they end up leaving. And even if they didn't lose the 10 pounds, which don't get me wrong, I'm sure that we can work with them on that, they end up liking where they're at so much more that they realize that they are healthy and they are, you know, a vibrant part of life, and they realize that they have made so many accomplishments. This image that we have of ourselves is so blown out of proportion with, oh, I need abs and I need this perfect physique and I need that. Most of those folks, you know, you got to look on the inside, and it starts from the inside out. And I do believe that if you feel good about yourself on the inside, your outside appearance actually improves as well. So
I would agree with you, definitely. Now, of course, this leads to my actually great segue. Thank you for introducing this next question, actually, because one of the things I thought about, because I saw all the different folks that you have in terms of, you know, when you go on the website, of course, folks, which we'll talk about a little later, obviously, all things they offer, and you also see exactly all the individuals that you have put together to collectively work as part of NCEP. So here's my question for you, because we'll talk about your educational background in a second. But the other individuals that you work closely with that work with your clients, are at least a portion of them, I'm guessing that one of the things you wanted was to have people that either have a background in psychology of some sort or a good lengthy experience relative to working with individuals, because I think, again, like with what you were just saying, understanding the mind and how it works is so integral in making the body successful as well.
Agreed. And so here's what's odd for us. We don't, and this comes as a shock to many, but I have just crazy amounts of schooling behind me. Both my parents were teachers, both just in my blood. And yet my belief on education is so much different. We don't care whether you dropped out of high school or whether you went on and have 4 PhDs. the individual that we want teaching has to have the heart and spirit and the mindset to be where we want them to be, and, of course, working with the amount of people, just as you mentioned. So that's what we look for. Some of our people on our staff, they don't even have college degrees. In fact, a couple, no, they all have high school diplomas as far as I'm concerned, but we don't need to have all those letters after your name, because that's not what it's about. What it's about is understanding the philosophy and where we're at. And it isn't about the overwhelming someone with science and saying, oh, because you know X, Y, and Z. I always give the story that, you know, in my schooling, I've spent an entire semester on the sliding filament theory. And there's all these technicalities and blah, 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 blah. And yet, in my 30-some-odd years of being a trainer, no one once has asked me, what is the sliding filament theory? So why would we, why would we as teachers teach so much on this, something that no one ever asks about, no one cares about, and it will never come up in conversation? It's that kind of dogma that just gets so old and wasted. So why then would we want instructors that have their college degrees and make sure they know all the sciences and do all that? That's not what we're looking for. So to us, the system stands for itself. I love the idea of McDonald's, and when I say that, everyone jumps back. What do you mean, McDonald's? McDonald's was the most amazing business ever made, if you think about it. They created a system where probably the highest educated person in the entire building, maybe has an AA degree, and yet they produce millions of dollars in each location. Why? Because the system works. It's not about loading people with science. I'm pretty sure on each person flipping the burger doesn't know that the burger has 38% of this and 28% of this, and it cooks for. They don't know that. They just know how to do it, and that's our whole idea. Is the system. As long as you stay within the system and you understand how the system works, to be bogged down with all the education and all the background and all the way, it's not practical. And, we shouldn't be experts in things that, kind of have no relevance in what it is that we're using. If we look at some of the most amazing people on earth, Henry Ford was in school for what, 2 weeks, 2 years, whatever. Uh-huh. He didn't even have a junior high school diploma. Edison was another one, never finished high school. And we can just keep going through history. The idea of schooling in general is one of those things that I'm not saying don't go. I'm not saying if you go, that's a waste of time. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying it's not the end all be all. But great question as well.
This is, and folks, just so you know this, as he's saying this, of course, I just need to let everybody know that he has, of course, 2 master's degrees. And this came out of this man because I'm like, he's so highly intelligent. And I do have a question about your education. I thought this was so cool. Because so here I am researching you, and I'm like, oh, my God, there's this notation, and it says he's almost a doctor of I can't even say it. Nature. There you go. Right. So I was just curious to ask you what that means exactly. See what I mean? I'm not very smart with this stuff. But I'm like, how cool is that? He's almost a doctor of blank, whatever blank means. So let's find out what that word means.
Right. Naturopathy is basically the science of using things that are not what we now technically call medicine, or that most doctors use today. So naturopathy is any way to use something that's natural. For example, I haven't even taken an aspirin in over 20 years. I don't do any medications. I don't do any what you would call Western medicine. I believe that, it has its own way of healing. And so that's what naturopathy is all about. And that's a quick little statement. But
nice. I just wanted to know what it meant, because I was like, that really looks like an awesome title. I wonder if he feels bad. But I'm guessing you probably don't feel bad that you didn't get your doctor of that word, because you're doing just fine. That's awesome. But he does have two masters.
Every once in a while, I think about going back and finishing, but I just haven't put it together. So
I get it. You're a little busy right now. You're doing other things like running a business. You know how that works. I want to flip over and talk a bit about,
kids.
and you could use this as a nice tagline because I thought about this. I'm like, you know what's really cool? In your intro, when I posted this up and I said I was interviewing you, I'm like, what's really cool about his business is that he covers what I call the primal four as it relates to when you're going to be working with various clients. My belief as a female is that you should cover the primal four, which you do. And you do this by way of the people that you've implemented in employment and in terms of the offerings that you have. So I'll tell you these four, which I think are cool, folks. First of all, we covered one of them, which is both pre- and post-pregnancy. Second of all, you deal with the physique, you deal with personal education as it relates to your area, and they even include Pilates. Check that out. Like the four primals for happiness right there, and they've got them all covered. Isn't that awesome? And we will get into that, but I thought, you know what, that's a great tagline for you guys. Listen to me. Just coming up with things as we go on the interview.
I read your little intro on that, and I read your little intro, and I kind of giggled. I was like, wow, she did her homework, because we don't ever have it
that's my job.
in that way. But yeah, you
really?
put different things all throughout the website, and I go, wow, she gave us the 4 Ps. So, yeah.
Well, I did.
Definitely.
I did. And I did creep on you because I'm a journalist, so we're supposed to do that. I mean, anybody can hand you a website and say, here's this, and then I dig further, and then I creep around and try to find you on other places like LinkedIn, which I did, and YouTube, and blah, blah, blah. See, but that's my job. I'm supposed to do that. By the way, thanks for not inviting me on the 4th and 5th, because you were right in my city. Did you know that? You were in Milwaukee recently. I wanted to ask you how the event went. Apparently, I don't know if it was you, but someone was here from your company on the 4th and the 5th.
Well, yeah, we actually have one of our regional reps actually lives in Milwaukee, so he of course does that area, and he's also going to be the instructor for our Chicago class as well.
Nice.
So I actually wasn't in Milwaukee myself, but
okay.
Right, yeah. So we have regional representatives, and they do all the courses kind of in that region. And so,
you bet.
Yeah, but you're more than welcome. I wish I would have known that you were in Milwaukee. I would.
Oh no,
definitely.
I'm in Milwaukee. Well, I call myself a floater. Like for instance, I'm in Milwaukee right now. Last week I had my film festival in New York City, so I was in New York for 5 days, and so I was there. And
that's what I read.
Yes. And it was scary. And I'm glad that I'm back home, but I'm sick now because it's not 70 in Wisconsin. It's like 35. And in New York, it's almost 70. So, yeah, this is why Cindy's sticking on the radio right now. Yay, New York! And I'm headed to California. Just so you folks know, I wanted to mention that. Now, you're located in California, and I have a question relative to that.
Sure.
First of all, California scares me because the people there are not like New Yorkers. So I'm like, you scare me because I think it's a different way of living in California. I think people are a little different there.
Absolutely.
So I want to ask you this. How does your mindset and methodology as it relates to your business, do you feel that you're more successful because of the cultural society in California as opposed to, let's say, when you're working in other areas, meaning are they more receptive? I guess it's my feeling based on the California culture, but if you talk about that a little bit, that would be great.
Sure. Out in California, I agree, especially, I'm so close to Venice Beach, which is my belief of the anything goes, all open and what have you. Mm-hmm. So, yes, I think it did help our culture grow. Our belief systems and the kind of the way that we train people and what our mindset was, although we call ourselves National College of Exercise Professionals, and we are now, when we first started, we really were really strongly just in the Los Angeles area. We grew to Orange County and San Francisco and San Jose or what have you. And we stayed in California, and I do agree that kind of our mindset in California is what made us so popular. When we started to ramble out in other cities and states, it took a long time for them to go, maybe they have something. So, for example, 22 years ago or so when we started, we would talk about something as crazy as probiotics. Now, now it's on every corner. You can buy them in every supermarket and every drugstore and anything. You don't need it. Any special anything to get them. Well, 20 years ago when we said people should be taking these probiotics, they looked at us like we're crazy. So I think the rest of the world is starting to see that there might be an alternative to what they're doing. And so that has now I think we're, I don't want to use the word cutting edge, but we're really on that realm of different. So people are looking for different. And I think that's a great statement. I think so many people are unhappy with status quo, and so they are looking for something different, and I think we provide that.
Which is cool. It's very cool. Wait till we start talking about some of these things. It's so awesome that you offer such a diversity as it relates to product line and what your membership offers. You've got the NCEP network. Oh my gosh, I'm just getting excited just thinking about it, as a matter of fact. I want to ask you, when you, and this is interesting, and this question is more directly to the people that are listening in. Oftentimes people that listen are either starting a business, getting involved with something, etc. So I always like to try to talk to business owners themselves, because I own a business myself. I want you to give them the real of the real, because oftentimes, like, I work with all sorts of different folks, celebrity, non-celebrity, and otherwise, and oftentimes things get very glamorized. Like, people watch television and they think, oh my God, I watched The Real Housewives and that's so exciting. And then I'm thinking, I just interviewed her and let me just tell you what she said. Do you know what I mean? I like to keep it real on my program. I want to talk a bit about 22 years ago, and here's Michael, and he's thinking, all right, I'm going to start this business, etc. Give folks maybe 2 or 3 tidbits in terms of something you know now that maybe 22 years ago when you were first walking in, you didn't know that you wanted to know. Give them some tidbits that they should walk into this. I mean, because I'm huge on enabling people to go do whatever they dream, whatever they desire, but we need to keep it real. So maybe anything that you've learned, maybe a mistake you've made that you don't want someone else to, anything you can pass along to the folks.
Sure. I mean, there's one blaring, huge thing that really stands out. There's different philosophies and thoughts, and one is the philosophy of burn your boat, which was an old alliteration towards, there was a young general who brought his troops over to an island to, of course, do a fight, to be in war, engaged in war, and he knew that he was outnumbered, so he had his second mate go and burn the ship, and he basically said the only way that we're going to get off this island is if we win or we die. So it's giving yourself no background. So with that in mind, I then left my job and thought, I have to burn all the ships and I have to make sure that I'm 100% involved. The challenge with that is I also have a family, and I was blessed with a son with special needs. And so he wasn't even supposed to live. In fact, his twin didn't make it and what have you. So we had some adversity, but I still said, we're going to burn the ships and we're going to be all in. And the challenge was, back in that day, we didn't have insurance. So we couldn't, because he had a pre-existing condition, no insurance company would take him. And so I burned the ships, quit my job, was 100% all in. Well, fast forward, for about 2 years, we brought up over $200,000 worth of medical bills with my son, who, like I said, was grasping for life for much of the 2 years. And so during that period, the more prudent would have been, keep your job, keep your medical benefits, and do it kind of on the side, or hire another person to fill in the time where you couldn't fill in yourself. And oftentimes we always think as business owners and that, well, we're the only ones who can do it and we do it best and we do it blah, 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 blah. And you have to give up that whole egotistic, thought that you're the only one who can do it. If it's your vision, if it's your belief, it's your system, you should be able to teach it to someone else. And so that was one of my biggest challenges. So then we started so much behind the 8 ball in debt, and not in debt on the business, but in debt in my own personal life. And that was our biggest challenge to get out. So I would really strongly, nowadays, because of the, Covered California, and I'm sure there's the Obama plan or what have you, it's a little better. But with all the things that Trump's saying about, and I don't want to make it a political statement, but all the things about changing healthcare, it may really become a bigger issue again. So healthcare is huge. It is just monstrous. And so that would be my number one thing, is make sure whatever you do, you have insurance, because the medical, you never know what's going to happen. And I know that it's only sort of business, but that's, a personal thing in my life that really, really, really changed my world. So.
Aww. I totally can relate. I had a child who was a seizure patient for 3 years, and talk about insurance, and oh my God, it's just so, society makes it very difficult to live out some of the more surreal moments of your life. You know what I'm saying? It's financial obligations, insurance obligations. Oh my God. It's seriously heart-wrenching. I don't even have another word for it. I mean, that's really realistically what it is. So folks, what we're telling you is, even when things are dark and dismal, if you prepare accordingly and do what you need to do, you can still do what you want to do. It's just that simple. Because I always hate I don't like the dark cloud thing. Definitely not. But thank you for sharing that story. That was very kind of you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So I want to talk about various different aspects of what you do, of course. So first of all, let's start with some of the basic stuff, which is, I want to talk about how you spend your time. First of all, folks, to get involved with you, as it relates to financial obligation or responsibility, I like to talk about this because I know that you are less expensive than the norm, which we always like hearing, of course. So most of us that are, again, stupid when it comes to this area, which I'm admittedly, I am a great journalist, but I'm stupid in this regard. As it relates to the norm within your industry, you guys obviously are faring along the lines of being less expensive, which we like to hear, but that doesn't mean that it's less in quality, and I want to emphasize that because we're going to name off a bunch of different things that get offered in terms of that. So we want to make sure that we cover the most obvious, which is if somebody wants to come to you and they need your help, and let's say they look at your services and they're thinking, I can't afford this, there's no way I can do this, we can't make this work. Are you able to work with your clients? Are there provisions that are made or plans that can be done so that this way nobody's left out, basically?
Yes, well, that's our goal. So we have a couple of different options. The biggest option that we work with is we work with a third party. Of course, everyone's heard of PayPal. So PayPal has been nice enough to grant us that anybody who wants to go through our course has a zero down option and 6 months to pay, same as cash. So in our belief, in 6 months you should be able to accrue enough extra money doing what it is that we've shown you and taught you that you should be able to pay it off. So that's our the other thing that we do is we really support anyone who is military, either previous or now or current, and we give them half off. So, and of course that's only one section of our people, but we do that. We also do an in-house financing, which is half down and half whenever you want your results or you want your certification, provided you pass. So those are the three options three little specialties we do, but the PayPal covers probably 90% of the people. We have been told that PayPal, of course, sometimes doesn't let the individual be eligible, but they don't give us their boundaries. They don't give us their background. They don't tell us why they give it to one and not another. But that's kind of the way we work with that.
And I think that's very cool, too, because then this way you're not limited by one option. You're given a variety, so that this way if one doesn't work out, you can work with another, which is fabulous. And what that does is that speaks to the NCEP and says, you know what, they're willing to do what needs to be done to make sure that their clients are satisfied and they're getting services. So kudos to you guys on that one as far as that goes.
We don't want anyone to not go through it just because they can't financially find a way. So we'll be very creative with people on an individual basis as well. But those are our three set programs that we have.
That's wonderful. Now, we're going to go through the various different things that you offer. First of all, they have what they call the NCEP network. And what's nice about that is it gives you an opportunity to both network and learn how to work with one another along with having bigger benefits, meaning that when you're part of the NCEP network, you're available to connect with fellow trainers. You're available to connect with fellow educators. You have benefits that some of the others. I guess we should have you discuss a bit. What's the difference between an average person who comes to you and says, you know what, I want to take your membership, I want to be part of NCEP versus becoming part of the NCEP network? Because they are two, indeed, different things, are they not?
They're relatively similar. I mean, everyone who goes through becomes part of the network almost automatically.
Right.
We just put them into the network. So they're relatively the same. If you just become part of the network and don't go through our courses, sometimes some of our lingo doesn't resonate with you because of our, even what we discussed earlier with our mindset of we teach movements versus muscles. We teach function versus fitness. So some of those things, if you aren't familiar with our products and what it is that we teach, you kind of scratch your head going, what are you talking about? So most of the folks in the network are pretty much at least on board with what it is that we do. So they're not too separate. They're relatively the same. And our goal is, of course, anyone in the network hears about our stuff enough that they then eventually go through one of our courses. So we try to make that one tight unit.
Gotcha. Let's say that Cindy shows up to you next week and says, okay, I want to go ahead and I want to take a certification class. Now, I, of course, am familiar with what various certifications that you offer, of course, but I'd like you to talk a bit about, let's start off with the most basic one, which is if somebody wishes to become a trainer and they say, I want to take a certification class, I'm noticing the norm here is that it's a 2-day session, 8-hour days, each particular day in different locations, of course. So talk to the folks a bit about, let's say they sign up for the certification class. Is there prep ahead of time? Is it just all hands-on? And, of course, I like the idea of the fact that you have less is more in terms of your students, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely. So here's some of the things that make us unique or different and why we do it, and there's always reasons behind it. So first, to take through the process, when an individual signs up, they'll receive a digital copy of the manual and study guide relatively, we like to say instantly, but we'll say within the first hour or so.
Okay.
That way they can start looking through it. But a lot of people don't like the digital versions because, you have to flip through or use an iPad or whatever else it is. So within 24 business hours, we will then put a hard copy of the manual and study guide in the mail to them. The goal is you will become better informed before you get to class if you read through the manual and study guide. So there's two different people that look at this, and I'll describe that. So some people don't like to study on their own. So they'll come in, they've never even cracked open the book. Day one of the course goes through the manual and study guide. We want to make sure that we hit all the highlights of each chapter. It's 8 hours and you're back at school. You might as well be in college. I mean, we're just going through each chapter, hitting the highlights, discussing whatever questions you may have, covering over each section. Day two is completely on the floor, and you're doing hands-on, one-on-one training. The instructor will show the different movement skills, and then you break up with a partner or two partners. One trains one, the other one's discussing how it looks, and the instructor then walks through the crowd and, of course, makes sure that you're doing everything correctly and gives feedback and what have you. At the end of the second day, we hand out the exams. The exams are not only written, not ABC, they're actually written, so you actually have to know the answer. And we also have a practical portion where each individual must take the instructor through a series of movements to prove that he or she completely has the knowledge of being able to train a human being. So a lot of those things, if you're not in the fitness world, they sound normal, but they aren't in the fitness world. So here's the opposite. Here's what most other certifications do. Most other certifications, you sign up. You either get a book or you just do it online. You go whenever you think you're ready. You go to a testing center, you show your ID, they sit you down at a computer, and you press A, B, or C as the answer. And then they spit out a piece of paper that says, congratulations, you're now certified, which is horrifying to me. So no one has ever actually watched the person. No one's actually knows that the person knows what they're doing, has any hands-on whatsoever. Coming back to ours. The individual who hasn't opened the book yet more than likely will not pass the first attempt. we allow them to come back to class in any city, in any location, in any gym that we offer, free of charge for 1 full year. They can retake the exam 32 times. They can retake the exam once, twice, 3 times. Even if they pass, we still say you should come back to class the next time we're in town or to go to another town to take it, because we really feel sometimes people focus so much on passing the exam that they don't really digest the information. So you can come to any part of the class. You can come to just one section. You can come to the whole thing as many times as you like for 1 full year, no added fees, not 1 penny. So those are the things that make us different. Yeah, so people who don't like to study on their own, they don't need to. Just come to class 5 times. By the end of the 5th time, you'll know the information like the back of your hand, and you'll do just fine. It usually doesn't take you 5 times, but you get the idea. Whereas if you do want to study it on your own, and you've studied it on your own, then you may only have 1 or 2 questions, and the 1 or 2 questions will be answered in the weekend, so then you'll pass your exam at the end of the weekend. So people use different theories or philosophies on how they use it, but we offer that for everybody. And those things, and I know they sound really common sense, aren't so common in the normal fitness arena. Nobody allows you to retake tests for free. Nobody allows you, or nobody does the hands-on and watches to make sure this person trains them correctly. Our whole philosophy is, if you wouldn't let that person train your mom, you shouldn't let that person train someone else's mom. So do not pass them, have them come back again. So that's what makes us completely different. And you know, my business, pardon me?
That's one of many things, but go ahead.
Right. But I mean, some of my business associates, they look at me and say, you're crazy. If you do it online, you can make so much more money. If you just have them, watch videos, you can make so much more money. You can get so many more people. But that's not why we invented this. This isn't mean I'm going to live on the Strand, which means in California to live in a $20 million home and sit on the beach and do everything. That's not why this is here. This is here. It really is. It sounds altruistic, but it is for the betterment of people and the betterment of the training world, so to speak. And so, sure, we make a little money, and I'm not going to pretend that we don't, but that's not our number one focus, and we never, ever make a decision based on money. We always make a decision on what's right for the person and what's right for the students going through. So.
Oh, my gosh. Now you guys see why I wanted to have him on my show? I mean, literally, he's doing all the work for me. I mean, listen to this. You sound like a male version of myself in my film festival. This is pretty cool. That's awesome. I want to talk about some of the other certifications because obviously they're broken down into different ones. One of the cool ones that I thought was the MMA. And this is of particular interest to me because I was complaining about something the other day. And so when we think about things such as mixed martial arts or anything that's a little more physical, if you will, there's obviously a concern about physical well-being, and safety, et cetera, and things like that. So most of the folks that come to you, have they already had some initial introduction into martial arts and then you recommend doing something like the certification? Or do you do newbies as well? I'm kind of curious about that.
Both. Most of the people have had some inkling in the fighting arena, whether it be they've taken Taekwondo as a kid or karate or they're, they have something that draws them to that. But you don't need to. The idea of the MMA certification is we go over what the different mixed martial arts actually are, what the purpose of each one of them are, how they originated. We try to bring in guest speakers that are typify their sport, the pinnacle of what it is that they do. We always have a UFC fighter come in and do a little segment, and we always have, all these different people. With that said, the idea is to show what the different martial arts are, how they complement what it is in the physical arena, and we also add to the MMA the standard personal training cert. So the idea of it is that you're still using our philosophy, but now you apply our philosophy for this particular MMA. So that's kind of the whole background of it. So we get people that just, they want to train other people to be better at MMA, and then we also get people that want to become an MMA coach, or they want, be on the sideline. So my brother has fought in the UFC, and so we have that whole link to that culture, so to speak, and try to really touch on all the needs that they have.
Nice. And, of course, there's the holistic nutritionist, which is another intriguing thing to me because, of course, I like my Mountain Dew and my donuts. That probably isn't a good thing to say to you. And that's all had Joe, by the way. Once the health started going, I'm on this great new diet, which lets me eat nothing, by the way. So that kind of stuff.
Then you're not on the right one. So you should be able to eat everything. And what
well, right. And I'm not going to lie to you. As we age, I think we kind of just take liberties because we're like, you know what, we're all not going to be here forever. So there's one side of the fence, but on the other side of the fence, from a health conscious standpoint, what I'd like to address with you in terms of holistic nutritionist, obviously, because I'm gathering this is an assumption, of course, that one of the main reasons to want to become certified in this area is not only holistically speaking from a food standpoint, but also from a psychological standpoint. We want to talk about that a little bit. Holistic living in and of itself isn't just what you eat. It's everything that you surround yourself with, whether it's in your home, whether it's in other entities or areas. So when people come to you and they want to get certified in this area, I just want to, again, take away the stigma, because the last 3 people that I talked to that were on a holistic path, everybody was like, well, they must be a hippie or a liberal, because those are the only 2 people that are into holistic stuff. And that's still not true. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Because seriously, everybody thinks, well, they have to be lighting candles and doing all that stuff. So when people come in, what's something important to remember if you want to do a path of holistic anything? Number one, you don't have to look a certain way. You don't have to believe a certain thing. However, some of the things that you cover within that certification might include, let's make this a little more appealing for folks because I think they shy away from it.
Sure. Well, first, the biggest difference between a holistic nutritionist and, an RD is we look more about where the food came from, the quality of the food. We don't count calories. Calories don't mean anything to us. We look at micronutrients versus macronutrients. In other words, how much vitamins, minerals are involved versus what is the carbohydrate and fat ratio and all those types of things. And we look at the way animals were ethically or unethically treated, how, like I said, where the meat came from. So whether it be meat, whether it be vegetables, whether it be any food product. And so the process, people have completely been separated from where their food came from. And I know that sounds odd, but we really don't know where our food comes from. I always said, if you want to turn the United States into vegetarians, bring a set of second graders to a slaughterhouse. And anyone who thinks it's okay, then you really want to watch them because they're going to end up being some kind of mass murderer or something, because it is horrifying. Yeah. It is horrifying. So for a second grader to go sit and watch that. But anyway, so the idea of the holistic lifestyle and the holistic nutrition is, once again, it's looking at where our food came from, how you make choices. And we use a sliding scale. So, for example, if we say the worst possible bread source would be Wonder Bread. And I don't mean to knock on Wonder Bread, but let's just face it, it's just chemicals and crap, and it really has no substance of food inside. And the best choice, right, and so if the best choice would be, and this is going to be a little shocking, but the best choice would be don't eat bread at all. Where are you in that whole stage? So maybe you went from Wonder Bread to generic wheat bread. Well, that's just brown. It really doesn't give you a huge step. And maybe you went from a wheat bread to a seeded bread, and from a seeded bread to a Ezekiel or something like a 7-grain bread, whole grain bread. But then we're suggesting that maybe the possibility or the next step would be maybe you don't need the bread at all. So where are you in that path? And everyone chooses for themselves, but we always go back to the beginning of how do you feel? How does it make you feel? And so we allow or work with our clients to have them make their own choices, but we always keep getting back to, do you feel better? Do you feel this? Do you feel that? If your goal was to lose weight, if your goal was to do this, where are you towards your goal? Where are you blah, blah, blah? And so the more that they challenge what it is with where they are and where they want to be, means the more strict they need to become. But once they've gotten to where they feel good, then that's their lifestyle. That's their approach.
Right.
So everyone is different, but we just give them what the sliding scale is. So they make their own choices, and we, guide them with their choices. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, actually. And it's simplistic, so it's not that complicated, because oftentimes when you get into talking about things like this, it can be very confusing for the layperson, and I call us lay people because we're not specialized in the same field as yourself. We're not working with this day in and day out. And like I mentioned, what's really cool is that not only are you limiting the amount of class participants, meaning that you don't walk into a class full of 30 or 40 people, which is nice, so there's individualized attention.
Absolutely.
You're focusing on building relationships, teaching them the newest and the latest things, so you're learning more about research and what's going on in there. You're upping the level of the quality and individualization. I firmly believe not only are you benefiting the people that are on your board and people that work in your facilities or people that even are working in Milwaukee or other locations, the better your staff is, the better that they can take those gifts and pass them along to the people that are visiting you. I think that's very important, because oftentimes most of us will go to a facility, and we're working on a lot of these things. We're trying to get trained or certified, and it's very dollars and cents, numbers and quota, and we've gotten away from the personalized attention, which you're definitely giving clearly, and you're giving it in a sane, stable way. And I don't mean to downplay other people, because I believe that if you have a mantra that you work with, and if it's working for people and it's not harmful to them, great. But you're enriching lives instead of extending out the what I call the toil and the trouble of it. Because a lot of these things that you talk about are about personal change. And again, who wants to change at 48 or who wants to change at 50? Or, do you deal with an elderly crowd? I meant to ask you that, meaning do you have older citizens that have an interest? Because like I said, there's that whole change thing happening there where it's like, yeah, no.
Absolutely. In fact, that
really?
We're the statistics by 2024, there'll be more people over the age of 55 than under the age of 55. Or there's some really odd statistic about how we're all getting older or what have you. So, yeah, it's a big thing. In fact, a couple of our instructors are in their high 50s. So,
really?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our number one instructor, actually, who travels and not only is our instructor, but then gets other instructors ready and signs off when they're ready to take their own regions or what have you. Yeah, he's in his high 50s. So we really believe in, and it shows the longevity. It shows where you are. I mean, to us, it's extremely important, extremely important.
And I want to mention this. One of the things that you also have is continuing education credits. Now, I found this interesting because I know you were just talking about the whole idea of having in-person versus online. But clarifying this, recertification can actually be done either in a classroom or can be done at home. So that option is offered in terms of continuing education, because there's a set quota, right?
Yes, it's completely. Now there we have agreed, okay, we've seen you at one point in time. We've approved you at one point in time. We've gone through those things. Okay, now to stay certified or to stay current, you can do that at home. Absolutely. You can go to any. Okay. We actually accept every other educational process there is in the entire nation. So whether you go to college, whether you go to another certification, whether you go to classes, whether you read stuff online, whether you do, we accept all of it, because our whole number one statement is we don't want this to be the last class you go to. It should be the first class that you go to. And whether it be ours or anyone else's, if you stop learning, you die. So continue with your learning. That's our goal.
I like that very much. We also don't want to forget to mention you offer a newsletter. Now, is that something where if people sign up online, they're going to get that every month, every other month?
Yes.
Is it quarterly? I wasn't quite clear on that.
Yeah, our goal is every month, and
Okay.
we've been pretty strong with that for the last couple of years, getting it out monthly. And yeah, that's free of charge. Anyone at all can sign up. They don't need to be a trainer, and that's, as you alluded to earlier, that's kind of the NCEP network. That if you're in the network, you're getting our newsletter. You can, have discussions with us or what have you. So I guess, retracting, it is two separate populations. But our goal is that, of course, we get everyone in our network to eventually come through our courses as well. So
very cool. And on top of which, some of the other bonuses here, obviously, you obviously brought this up before, which is, of course, the option to be a local leader, as you mentioned, in Milwaukee and other places, discounts on continuing education. There's obviously merchandise that's available, access to trainers, as we talked about, and, of course, your starter kit. So a starter kit would involve or include what exactly, just so we clarify that point?
Well, basically, our whole starter kit is the study guide, the manual, a T-shirt, just becoming part of the network, getting involved with our social media. That would be pretty much our starter kit to get you up and running.
Very cool. Very nice. And also, he's been featured in Club Solutions. Just had to throw that out there because I've never been featured in Club Solutions, so I'm a little jealous there. Of course, when you're a professional writer, you can get featured anywhere you want. You just put your name on it. And I'm like, how cool is that? That's absolutely awesome. And the other thing that I want to mention here is, as you had started to bring up, their certification classes don't just happen once a week or once a month. They're having it on a pretty frequent basis. And also what I like about that is that it's in different areas. Like, for instance, on November 11th and 12th, the weekend that's coming up, not only are you in Chicago, which is, of course, what we're going to talk about in a second, but they're also doing a class, like, for instance, in Virginia. They have one going on in American Family Fitness. So that goes on from November 11th to 12th. So we want to make a distinction here. For each certification class, the price is always the same, because I'm noticing that. So it's always going to be that $499 course class amount, if I could talk right.
Yes. And then if you follow our social media, and if you link up with our social media, we're constantly giving incentives. So if you're part of our network, if you're anything, then we give you some discounts on that $499 as well.
Gotcha. Very nice. And of course, you do offer a coupon code, because I noticed if you put in NCEP 100 code. Oh, okay, got it. That's the 100 code. Okay, got it. So that's $100 off, obviously. Yes. So if people are listening in and they live close to me, like, for instance, I live close to you, and I was bummed because I'm like, no, I can't go for your course because I'll be in Atlanta, Georgia on the 11th, so I won't even be here. But you won't be here either, so I guess we won't miss each other. But nonetheless, plenty of people listening in will be in Chicago or Virginia or in other places to take your courses. So if they're listening in right now and they're in the Chicago area and they're thinking, why do I want to take this class this weekend? I could list 3 or 4 reasons. But since I have the good fortune of having you, Michael, let's give 2 good reasons why everybody should go this weekend to this course.
Great. Well, the first thing is we truly believe that an individual that even doesn't want to be a trainer will learn so much about their own health and how to create a healthy lifestyle that everyone should go regardless. So that's our first statement, is we really want to spread the word. We feel that fitness is easy. It isn't complicated. In fact, we feel most people already know most of what they needed to become healthy or to become more healthy. But the challenge is they don't have a system, or they don't have a practical plan. And that's what we feel we do best. We create a practical plan for every person, whether it be the star athlete or whether it be the person who, is really having challenges getting from point A to point B. So I think that's the number one reason we should go to our class. And then the second thing is, if you do want to become a professional and you do want to pass it on, we think it's unbelievably important to get this mindset, because you're going to affect so many other people's lives. And if you continue to give that false sense of health, in other words, what we call fitness, you're not doing a service to the people that are paying for you. So that's our goal.
Nice, very nice. Now, November 11th and 12th, 10 to 6, it's at the Chicago Equinox. That's this coming weekend. If you are in Virginia, there you go. That's right. In American Family Fitness in Glen Allen, Virginia, November 11th to 12th. There's also another class going on, and again, it's from 10 to 6. If you happen to be in the Florida area the following weekend, November 18th to 19th, again, same hours, 10 to 6, and that's in Dora. Is it Mount Dora, Florida? Am I reading that right?
Mount Dora.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure I clarified that. Now, if you use the NCEP, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, basically Mount Dora is the Orlando area. So.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Orlando's the biggest city
Orlando.
that's around. Yeah, Mount Dora is just
right.
one of the little cities outside. So.
Oh, that's so cute. So obviously, of course, if he was kind enough to mention the NCEP 100 code, which gets you $100 off. And believe you me, $100 is a lot nowadays. Let me just say that much. Now, I guess the only other question that I have to ask you, which is the obvious, if I were to say to you, if we look 5 years down the road at NCEP's future and your future as well, what does that look like for you and for the business? What would you like to see happen?
Well, for the business, we hope that it becomes an everyday name. Our goal is that, as I alluded to earlier, our goal is that every man, woman, child understands the NCEP principles. And whether they get it from us or they get it from someone else, the goal is that it just doesn't stay in the health club realm. That normal, everyday people who are looking to just improve their health and get a better lifestyle, go to our course, buy our book manual. It's also available on Amazon. It's available through our website. They just read through it and see how many practical things that they can change in their lives just reading through. So that would be our number one goal. In 5 years, we want to be in, every major city, every small city, just a household name. In terms of my goal in 5 years, just keep doing what I'm doing. There's, I have no aspirations to be the next Oprah trainer or whatever. I just would like to continue, be blessed with the ability to stay doing what I'm doing, stay healthy, and change people's lives. That's our goal.
Oh, that's wonderful. Isn't he just wonderful? It's kind of like, oh my God, that's absolutely amazing. Listen to you. Well, I have to say that you were very impressive. You were not scary, which is good for me because I'm like 3 inches from death right now. So I was like, I don't know if I could deal with that. I don't know what it is about this show. It's like we've been talking for over an hour. I don't know how this happens. It happens every time. Right. I'm like, it's going to be like 45 minutes, and it's just a natural flow. I hope it hasn't been too uncomfortable or difficult. I hope I did. Not
at all. You're wonderful, fantastic. But I know you keep alluding towards your health, and I feel so bad. I don't know the whole background, but I heard talking about it a little before.
Actually, I was talking about it a little before, and so most people know this now because I finally said it. I'd been in the hospital actually 2 months ago, and I was kept in for what they thought was a stroke. And then when they released me, I was put on a bunch of medications, and they were very careful to say to me, some of the blood vessels in my head are starting to close. So when that happens, of course, that's when you encounter a stroke. So they've put me on all this medicine, and they had me follow up, et cetera. Well, I saw one of my doctors yesterday, and he was reading through my charts, and the long story short was he's like, wait. First of all, this isn't something that happened yesterday. This has been going on for some time, which I didn't know. And he had said that basically what he had observed was all the markings, according to what the doctor said, of a TIA, which is a partial stroke. So tomorrow I see my other doctor, and if indeed he concurs, well, that's a big difference from what I was told and what's actually going on. So there's a whole lot of me that's a whole lot of petrified, and a whole lot of listeners and good friends that are petrified too. So I've changed a lot of my diet and a lot of things these last 2 months to coordinate this, and then you go see a doctor, and then all of a sudden everything's different yesterday. So it's been a whirlwind for the last 24 hours. I'm not going to lie. I'm not a very happy person right now. I'm not a very pleasant person. If I wasn't on the radio, you wouldn't be talking to me because I said that. I'm like, don't talk to me, anyone, until I sort this out. So yeah, so I'm a little concerned. There's a lot going on in my life, and I don't have time for any of this, basically. So I'm like, I just don't have time for any of this. Well, now you have to make time. So now I'm kind of just backtracking, and yes, I'll be spending a lot of time with the doctor getting this on one track so that everybody is on the same course. So mentally and physically, I'm not so great right now. But thank you for asking. I mean, I'm working on it. It's scary. It's a lot of scary stuff.
You're a wonderful person. You sound like a wonderful person, and the only thing I can say at all is just you be in charge of your own health. Doctors always say that they think you need to do this, you need to do that. You don't need to do anything that you don't feel comfortable with, and always you be the one to make your choices for your life.
Right.
So,
thank you very much. And in fact, I don't know if let me offer something back, because you probably have heard of him before, but I bet you would enjoy his teachings if you haven't. I just got turned down in New York City about 6 or 8 months ago to the teachings of Dr. John Sarno. Are you familiar with him?
I am familiar with him. I can't say that I've met him, but I am familiar with him, and I think he's on course. So
thank you. So we would get along fabulously. I'm a huge subscriber to that right now, in fact, and I just saw his film. Actually, there's a film about his life story, and I just started to subscribe to his theories. I was going to approach him about coming on air, and he passed away, actually, so he's no longer with us, sadly. But I'm trying to believe very strongly in, I think I know what's wrong with me, and so I'm going to do the medical stuff, but I'm still working on the mental stuff because there's mental stuff to be worked on. But enough about me. There's 2 or 3 business things we have to do.
Okay.
Because we are on air, actually, in front of 63,000 people, so I guess I should do my job.
Sure,
first of all, I'm going to read off a list of places for everybody to find you. So when I get done, if you wouldn't mind just letting me know if I forgot anything. So give me a second. I'll read it all off. Before I forget, folks, his name is Michael, and it's DeMora. It's spelled DeMora. He is with the National College of Exercise Professionals, otherwise known as NCEP. The website itself is ncepfitness.com. They also have a Facebook page with the same name, and the Twitter handle, again, at NCEP Fitness. He is also on LinkedIn as well as Pinterest. Also, you can purchase their manuals on either Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Any other places where we might find you, social media or otherwise?
No, that pretty much covers it.
I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't throwing anything out there. I also don't want to forget to mention, because you've never been on my show before, so there's just 2 more things we have to do. But before I forget, I have to thank Ethel Baumberg. Thank you so much. You're my first interview. You're one of her clients. You're my very first one. So I'm hoping and praying with all that I have that she is happy with the work that we did today. So Ethel, from me to you, thank you so much for setting me up with your client. Hopefully you're very satisfied and pacified with what I did. Folks that are listening in, if you need any sort of PR or otherwise when it comes to PR, social media, promotion, branding, you name it, she does it. I cannot talk today. RebelVisionMarketing.com. That's your girl, Ethel Baumberg. RebelVisionMarketing.com. So thank you so much for enlightening both of us, coming into both of our lives, and thank you, Ethel, for this. This was wonderful. Now, there's only 2 more things I want to let you know. First of all, just so you know, Mike, about 2 hours or so after this, this is a live interview, it becomes archived, both on Blog Talk Radio and then, of course, on YouTube. So what will happen is I'll upload it to YouTube, as well as I'll take the version from Blog Talk Radio. I'll send it over to Ethel, and she'll send it over to you. So you'll have a copy. So basically anybody can go back and listen in 24/7 all year round as far as that goes. That's the business side of things. So you get a copy of it, of course. You can use it for promotion or otherwise. Second of all, I don't want to forget, we always do surprises on this show. So I have a surprise for you, and then I get to tell you what I think of you. That's kind of the MO on my show. It's like my thing.
Interesting. Okay.
So, first of all, here's the surprise. I always try to let people know that when they come on my show, whether they're referred or not, because sometimes a publicist will refer. Actually, a lot of times lately it's been publicist, or I pick a guest. I bring them on my show, and I always try to find a way to incorporate my world with your world. And why? Because oftentimes some of the best actually some of the best friends that I have today are people that have either been on my show or have worked with me before. So I consider my friendships very seriously, and I'm very loyal to that. And I have a lot of business things that I do that you know nothing about, but I can pull you into them. So in the conversation we've had in the radio show, I have a question for you. One of the things that we talked about a great deal was mantra, mental mantra. And I think that you would be amazing, depending on if you have any encouragement or inclination to want to be an independent film. I am literally starting to shoot my first film, and I think I mentioned it's on mental health, in particular bipolar disorder. It's a huge topic for me. I've been a patient for 30 years, and I have the wherewithal to be able to do something about it. And one of the things that I don't have so far is someone from different entities in business that can talk about how doing things like physical exercise and some of the things and elements that you incorporate in your business and how it helps the mental capacity. I think it's huge that we talk about that. I think it's huge that we cover it, and I like what you stand for. I'm very impressed by you, and I would love it if you would consider being part of the film.
Well, of course, absolutely.
You didn't say no. I hate it when they say no. It's really awkward, because then you're like, what do I say now? But you didn't say no.
Of course not. I would love to be. I would be blessed.
I don't know. You might say no. I don't know.
No, I would want. Beautiful. I would love to. Anything I can add to it or be part of it, I would absolutely.
I would appreciate that, and I'll make sure that I reach out, obviously, after the fact and such, and I'll make sure that you get my contact information. But I think it's a nice mix, and I do think it's important. I mean, there are multiple entities that are coming onto the show, and I'm really excited about it in terms of show people together with film, because film is a new thing for me. I just had that festival. It's opened up a lot of doors for lots of other people. And then finally somebody said, well, what are you doing about your films? So this is one of 4 I've written. So it's about time I did something. So I'd love to be able to do that. So I am going to be in California at the end of the month, latest at the end of the month. So we'll figure out a way to be able to get together in person, because it would be great to sit down and talk to you about that. So I appreciate that. Thank you. So the last part I get to do of my show is not written. This is the only part that's not written, and I do this on purpose because anybody can go and do internet research. Anybody can talk to your friends. Anybody can creep on you. But this is basically from my heart, telling everybody what I think of you. So here goes. When I first saw Michael, I'm not going to lie, and I told him this myself, he scared me. He has this very surreal, very serious look on his website, and I think to myself, yeah, why would I want to talk to him? Well, because someone's making me today, because the publicist said you have to talk to him, and so I did. So I went ahead and I researched you, and I looked into everything that you stand for and everything that you represent and your business does, and this is what I discovered in you. There are 3 fundamental reasons why you guys should encourage and solicit his business. First of all, he stands for what I call the Pertinent 4, which is he covers post and pre-pregnancy, Pilates, the physique, and personal education, and he deals with the mental mantra. Anything that makes the mental mantra better, in my opinion, I already owe you a debt of gratitude. I've spent 48 years trying to figure out how to improve my mental mantra. I'm still doing it on a daily basis. One of the things that I believe in firmly is that, and yes, I'm a spiritual person to a certain extent, God brings people into this of ours for a reason, and he brings them to you for a reason, and at the right point in time when you need to talk to them. You had a message for me today, and I'm very grateful that you gave it to me. I won't tell you what it is, but I will say thank you so much. One of the coolest parts about this interview today is that I met somebody who is not consumed by the almighty dollar or his drive and desire to make himself better, but he is more motivated by making other people better. If that isn't the epitome of what this world needs today, I don't even know what to say right there. I think everything you have to offer is phenomenal. It's economical. See what I mean? I can't talk. In addition to which, I find you inspiring, motivating, moving, and magical, only because you've made a believer out of somebody who looked at some of this and was like, I have no idea why you'd want to participate. Now I get it. I thank you so much for taking all this time and giving it to little old sick me. I appreciate that. I appreciate your tolerance. I appreciate what you give to your community of clients. You give a gift to people whether you know it or not. So I am going to be safe to say by tons of people that you've helped and touched so far, thank you so much for your services. Thank you for coming into my little corner of the world. Please know that you're welcome to come back anytime you like. I'm booking up a little quick these days, but do come back anytime. And if there's anything I can do for you, please let me know. That's what I think of you.
Much. Well,
you're welcome.
Thank you. I feel blessed and wonderful. Thank you for all that.
And great. Well, no, definitely. I'll make sure I forward along my information along with, like I said, give it a couple hours. By tonight, you should have copies of both. I'll send along my information so you can get a hold of me. And hopefully, if you want to work on this, I would love it. We're trying to put it, just so you know, we're trying to put it together very quickly. And you're the first person to hear this. Well, and now 63,000 people. My intention, if I play this right, is to showcase it, if they accept it, at Tribeca. That would be the first festival to see it. So
that'd be wonderful.
That's kind of exciting, but it's scary as hell. I'm not going to lie. I have a lot to do because the deadline's a month away. So, yeah, it's a lot. So if we do this, we need to do it quickly. But we'll talk about that. I'm just glad that you came. I'm glad that you enjoyed yourself. And like I said, don't be a stranger, please.
Great. Thank you. It was nice meeting you.
Thank you very much. I look forward to talking to you in the near future. Have a wonderful afternoon.
You as well. Thank you.
All right, dear. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Isn't he wonderful? And he has that surreal tone that you're like, I could listen to this all day. Oh, my gosh. Thank you so much, Michael, for coming on the show today. I cannot thank you enough. And again, Ethel, thank you so much for connecting the both of us. Again, National College of Exercise Professionals, otherwise known as NCEP. The website itself is ncepfitness.com. Same name on Facebook and Twitter handle at @NCEPFitness. He also has a profile on LinkedIn as well as Pinterest. The manuals can be purchased on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Certification classes, one more time. If you're in the Chicago area this weekend, it's at the Equinox, November 11th and 12th from 10 to 6 each day. If you are in Glen Allen, Virginia, American Family Fitness, November 11th and 12th from 10 to 6 again. And also November 18th and 19th for the Florida area, which basically equates, as he said, to Orlando, which is Mount Doral, Florida, at Fitness CF from 10 to 6 from November 18th to 19th. And remember, that NCEP 100 code gets you $100 off, so please support his efforts if you can. Again, one more time, Vision Rebel Marketing, and that's Ethel Baumberg, Baumberg. Thank you so much again for setting this up. Reminder to everybody, as far as tomorrow goes, we are on air at 4 o'clock Central Standard Time. And again, we're going to be speaking with the good doctor about her new book. So please be able to try to tune in. If you can't, check it out archived. Thanks so much to everybody that was listening in today. One more time, thanks so much for all your prayers and your concern. I will be back on air tomorrow. I'm off to go get my beautiful children. We'll talk to you then. Take care.
The United Performing Arts Fund invites you to expose yourself to talking animals, to plays about pee-pee, to ideas that won't fit in 140 digital characters. Expose yourself to real characters, to Beethoven, to women who dig very hairy men. No matter what you're into, there's a performance this season that has it. So just buy a ticket. It never goes down the same way twice, but go down, it will. Right here in Milwaukee. Find your performance at mkearts.com. The United Performing Arts Fund invites you to expose yourself to talking animals, to plays about pee-pee, to ideas that won't fit in 140 digital characters. Expose yourself to real characters, to Beethoven, to women who dig very hairy men. No matter what you're into, there's a performance this season that has it. So just buy a ticket. It never goes down the same way twice, but go down, it will. Right here in Milwaukee. Find your performance at mkearts.com.